It's none other than Maine legend, Tim Sample.
Well, I could do the Donald Trump. Anyway, I'm Tim Sample, winner of the Tim Sample Lookalike Contest, 3 years running at the Freiburg Fair. But one of the things that I love about the entertainment business is meeting the people that have come to my shows. My first comedy album was released 45 years ago this year, in 1980. I recorded 12 comedy albums, I don't know how many television specials and all this kind of stuff, and done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows, and people still come up to me on the street and ask me this question: where do you get your material? I'm thinking, obviously, you're not paying attention. Okay, because in the state of Maine, I was born and raised in the state of Maine, and I have traveled extensively. I think I performed in something like 23 of the 50 states and like that, and I traveled around. But I can tell you this, and I always pay attention, that the state of Maine, I'm very proud to say, has the highest CPSI index of any state in the nation. And of course, I'm referring to characters per square inch, okay? And I grew up on the coast of Maine in a little town where, you know, you go to kindergarten and graduate from high school with the same 37 kids, and everybody knows everything about everybody. It's not accurate, but they know it. But I now believe that it's virtually, I didn't have any other choice but to become a Maine humorist, because in the town where I grew up, you would just bump into these characters. Now, I was born in 1951, so I grew up in the 50s and 60s, a completely different period of time. And they were just starting to really crank up this tourism idea. Okay, so when I was a kid, they started using this slogan, Vacation Land. See, and they put it on the license plates and like that. And I grew up in a town where there was like mostly shipbuilding and fishing and about 3 gift shops, right? But that began to change. And what happened was people would come in the summer, and you're familiar with this now, and it would be vacation land for them, but not for the locals. See, so there'd be an inevitable clash between the folks that was on vacation and the folks that was trying to make a living. Like, I grew up with these people like Douglas Kata. Do you know Douglas Kata? Wait, I forgot to tell you, this is an important part of my show. As I go along, it's possible I may ask you a question. Like, do you know Douglas Kata? Something like that. You got to realize, dear, when I ask them questions, I'm not interested in the truth. Why should I possibly care if you knew Dougie Kata? I just want to feel like you're with me, all right? Let's try this again. How many knows Dougie Kata? Yeah. Ain't that more fun? How many was in Ethiopia last weekend? Hang on that one concept, we'll do all right. But Douglas, I met Douglas, I think I was probably about 10 or 12 years old. Douglas was a lobsterman down at the harbor, and he was probably 35 maybe when I was 10 or 12 years old, maybe 30, 35. But because he was a lobsterman, at the lobsterman on the coast of Maine, at 35, Dougie Kata looked approximately the same as Clint Eastwood looks today. It's a kind of a wore out early and run down and rode hard and put away wet look. But Douglas, he was a working lobsterman, so he was up at the crack of dawn. By the time the fella in the blue blazer and the salmon-colored slacks got up for his first cup of coffee, Douglas had already hauled 600 track. He was big bodied, you know. So the fellow, and there was a period of time, this is probably around the 1970s, some of you are old enough to remember this, there was a period of time when there was a fad It lasted almost a decade. I think the epicenter of this fad was probably Paramus, New Jersey. I'm not certain. But the thing was, for about a decade, the only thing for a lawn ornament down in New York and New Jersey was a Maine lobster trap. You remember that? The wooden trap. You'd see them, at the end of the summer, Labor Day weekend, they'd be strapped onto the top of the car and onto the hood and dragging them back to New Jersey. Well, Douglas was working in one of these sports on the Vacation Land tour. He was poking around down on the dock and looking for one of them traps. And Doug was just taking a little break, and the fellow walks up and he said, "Geez, I like the look of them traps, but then there's some brand new traps out there." And he says, "I'd like to have one of them on my lawn down in New Jersey. I just wonder how much you'd have to get for that one there for us." Oh, Doug says, "I imagine I'd have to get $50 for that one." Well, the fellow, that was 1977 or something. That's a lot of money in 1977. He says, "I don't know, it's a bit much." Doug says, "Suit yourself." And he kept working. Well, the fellow wouldn't give up. He poked around, went to the backside of the dock, out by the bait house. There's a bunch of old traps out there, kind of, scuzzy and, fish heads in there, nasty, beat up. And he thought he might get a better deal on one of them traps. So he went back to Doug, he pointed them out, and he said, "How about one of them?" Oh, Doug said, "Oh, yeah. He said, "I could part with those. I'd have to get $100 for one of them." Fellow says, "I don't get it. How come you're charging me twice as much for the old beat-up trap as you have for that brand new one?" Doug said, "That's easy." He said, "Them old beat-up traps, they belong to me. I don't know who the hell owns them traps."